So if you can tell us, Uncle, about your family and
Right,
where
okay.
you come from.
When shall I start?
Yeah, you could start now.
Let me introduce myself. My name is Kalyanam. Though I am a South Indian, I was born in Simla, which is in Himachal Pradesh. I was born on 15th August 1922, and I've just completed 91 years of my age. My father joined the then government of India under the British rule sometime in 1914 during the First World War. And I have three sisters. They're all married and well settled. One is dead, the other two are alive. And during the British days, we enjoyed life immensely as compared to what we are having today. We led a luxurious life. My father drew a princely salary of 300 rupees a month. It is equivalent to nearly 3 lakhs today. He was an ordinary man. He was drawing 300. In those days, the government of India functioned from New Delhi. New Delhi was the capital. Earlier it was in Calcutta. When it was shifted to New Delhi, in summer, New Delhi is very hot for 6 months. So the government used to function from Simla for 6 months. So we used to have 6 months in Delhi and 6 months in Simla. Simla was the summer capital and Delhi was the winter capital. In those days, most people who were working in the government of India were South Indians. They are all very good stenotypists, and Englishmen wanted stenographers. So most of them were South Indians. And there was a joke going around in Delhi that government of India consists of only Madrasis and Chaprasis. Chaprasi means a peon. Madrasi means in those days all those who came from the south, whether he's a Malayali, whether he's a Karnataka man, whether he's everybody was a Madrasi.
I think even now they do say that.
And my father started the first school for Madrasis in Simla and Delhi. At that time, I was one of the first 10 students in 1927 when I was 5 years old. It was a primary school. Now, it was called in those days Madrasi School. Now it is called DTEA, Delhi Tamil Education Association, and it has got 4 branches, and the total number of students there studying now is nearly 15,000. It started in 1927 by my father and his colleagues. We had our primary education. Now it has got up to CBSE, higher standard, up to the matriculation and all that. I told you we were living in Simla and Delhi. Most of our neighbors were either South Indians or most from different parts of Karnataka and Kerala, Mysore, everybody. Others were mostly Englishmen. Our neighbors were Englishmen and also Muslims. So we lived peacefully with all of them. We never had any trouble of any kind. I spent 25 years under British rule. I was born on 22nd, 1922, and till 1947, it was 25 years. 47 we got independence. Till then it was British rule. So in those 25 years I enjoyed life immensely. Almost everybody. The salary ranged I started working at the age of 20. My salary was 60 rupees, princely salary, 60 rupees. The house was just like this, as you see now, with 60
Nice
rupees.
house, yes.
I never went about without wearing a tie, suit, hat, and all that. Anglicized, totally anglicized. Never wore this pajama. I am wearing this only now after I joined Gandhi. Never wore this. I had 6 pairs of shoes, one for school, black, another for games, white canvas shoe and all that. Each shoe cost only 1 rupee or 1.5 rupees. I have got all the vouchers even now to be shown when I come there.
Yeah, to our college.
With 60 rupees salary, 1.5 was deducted for revenue stamp. We used to get 59 rupees, 15 annas. A rupee was equal to 16 annas. Out of that 59 rupees, 650, we spent hardly 35 rupees for morning tea, breakfast, lunch, evening tea with snacks, evening dinner. All that monthly would cost 35 rupees.
Out of 60 rupees, yes.
35 rupees you could have all this
All your food for the
per
week.
month for anybody, and that was the best quality. There was no question of inferior quality. Nobody had anything inferior. We all used to have only basmati rice,
Oh,
not this damn rice here. We all have basmati rice was 2 rupees a kilo. Now it is 88 rupees or 1000, I mean 150 or something like that. Anyway, and with 60 rupees in our pocket, 30 rupees went for food. Every Saturday and Sunday we used to go for pictures. Maximum price for the best class was 8 annas. Best class,
8 annas for
8
the
annas.
highest.
So for 2 days only 1 rupee. Other days enjoyed ourselves, and we ate cakes and pastries in the best of restaurants in those days. It wouldn't cost more than 2 rupees for 4 or 5 pieces. 4 or 5 pieces. Now each piece would cost 200 rupees.
Yes. Well, nice.
Now, having lived in the midst of particularly Englishmen, they were all very hard-working people, not like us. We Indians are lazy as compared to them. What do? We come back from office, we put on the TV and go on looking at the TV. They have a TV at home, but they won't touch it. They are busy doing garden work. That is what I learned from them. I am doing the garden work for the last 70 years. All this garden is mine. Nobody does anything. Nobody would even water a plant.
So you do everything.
I do everything, transplant, everything I do. And I learned this from Englishmen. The Englishmen, when they came back from office, they would put on their shorts and start working in the garden. They would have a khansama. Khansama is a butler. The butler was there not to cook food, only to look after the child in the perambulator, take it for a walk, or look after the puppies, dogs at home, that's all. And he would be given a day off, not like we use the servants all the 24 hours, they were compulsorily asked to go on Saturday evenings, get out, enjoy yourself, come on Monday. So they would be given a day off. On that day they would go and play football and other things and come back refreshed on Mondays. They were very hard working. And all other work at home Englishmen did themselves. If the lights go off now, the fuse is gone. We want a electrician to come and fix it. No.
Yeah.
They would themselves do it. Anything wrong with the plumbing work, they would themselves do it. Anything wrong with this almirah, anything broken, they would themselves have a saw and a fretwork. All this I learned from them. Painting of this house is done by me.
Oh.
I did it myself. I don't employ anybody. So even that was framed by me, that Gandhi.
Put this picture.
Yes, I learned it. It was the wood was unavailable, so I put it in there. So anything going wrong, we used to mend it ourselves. Never employed any outside labor. And that is what. Sorry. Has it come out?
No, no, it's
Is
Yes.
it all right at this distance? Right.
Yeah, should be.
I can keep it here. No. Has everything come out all right?
Yeah.
Acha. So I learnt all this from the British. I was working under the British for nearly 1 year. Then I heard that a man called Gandhi wanted independence.
What was your job, uncle, actually?
I had studied up to BCom, commerce,
Okay.
so I joined the budget section of the army headquarters.
Okay.
I was a clerk,
Okay.
drawing 60 rupees. A very good salary in those days.
Budget section of army headquarters.
Army headquarters. Peons were drawing a salary of 15 rupees a month. They were leading a very comfortable life on 15 rupees a month.
Oh.
Their salary was 15, yearly increment was 8.5 or 1 rupee. They would work for 30 years. At the end of 30 years, their salary would be 45 rupees. Out of that, most of them would be working with their bosses in their homes.
Oh, okay.
So they would employ.
Attachment.
And so the salary that they draw, 15 rupees, they would send 12 rupees to their families in Gadwal, UP.
Okay.
And they would be staying with us, having food with us, and doing all the work. Morning, get up, wake us up, make our bed, give us the toothpaste, toothbrush, cook breakfast, then lunch, then dinner, then evening, take us outside for a walk, and all that. Everything they did. Salary was 5 rupees. Salary of the servant was 5 rupees with food, same food which we ate. Out of that 5 rupees, they would send 3 rupees home. They would keep 2 rupees for their bidi, smoking, that's all. And they worked with us for nearly a person aged 15 was working with us as a servant. He worked with us in our house with my father for nearly 20 years. When my father retired, at that time his age was 30, 35. In those days, employment in government was very easy. My father was working as a clerk. He had full powers. The day he retired, he made him the peon in the office. His salary became 30 rupees. He was drawing 5 rupees at home.
And then
Having worked with us for 15 years at 5 rupees, my father had the right to employ him in his own side. He would retire. From that day onwards, he was a peon in the office. Nobody would question him. It is easily paid. He didn't have to require the permission of any boss and all that. He was the boss, though he was a clerk. So that is how life those days. And as I told you, most people were South Indians. They were all called Madrasis. Everybody knew each other. There were nearly 3,000 South Indians, all Madrasis,
in Shimla.
in Simla and Delhi. They were,
Okay.
they were all working with British bosses. They were their stenographers. Now the school was started. So most of them were studying in the same school, Madrasi school. And while serving, they had the best of life. Most of them, people who came from here, they went to Delhi as bachelors, they got married. And if there is any function in anybody's house, no question of any shamiana, rent, tent and all that. No question of this, what do you call that, drum beating and all that. What do you call that?
Oh, that mushaira. Oh, that music.
The music and what do you call that in Tamil? Mela. No good. Only a gramophone plate. And if there is a marriage in your house, you'll invite all your close South Indian friends. There would be about 50 or 60.
Oh,
Then 2 or 3 of them will come to apply for leave and work in your house. One fellow will be cutting vegetables, the other fellow will be cooking, the third fellow will be arranging plates. No servants at all.
no service.
Everybody helped each other in every function. There was no question of inviting anybody and no question of even invitation cards. Verbally tell them, my son is getting married, you please come. So they would apply for leave. So they say, I will look after supplying buttermilk. So he would make buttermilk like this with a rope, in those days. and one man will prepare vegetables, another man will prepare sambar, another man will prepare rasam, another man will be serving, then another man will be washing the dishes. Everything was done by these people who were working as colleagues in offices. No question of engaging anybody from outside. And the total cost of the marriage would be hardly 200 to 300 rupees. Total cost.
Total cost.
300, never more than 500 rupees. Never.
Maybe 4 or 5 months salary.
That's all.
Not more than that.
And that is how we carried on life in Delhi. At that time, when I had just completed my college education, that was in 1940. At the age of 18 or 19, I became a graduate. At that time, I heard that there is a man called Gandhi who is wanting independence. We had not seen him, we had only heard that there is somebody wanting independence. But we people in the government were quite well off with our salary. We never bothered about it. We only heard about it and kept quiet, that's all. We never worked for the independence. We used to see somebody, Gandhi, wants independence. Why? I was wondering why he wanted independence. We were leading a luxurious life. Where is the need for another Britishers to go? We'll let anybody govern. So long as we get our good food, good money, enjoying ourselves every evening, where is the need for Indians to govern ourselves? I didn't understand what is government of India means. I didn't understand that India means only Indians should work and foreigners should not work. I never understood anything. So we used to see the papers and we never cooperated with him. It is somehow some people joined the Congress party and they were raising a hue and cry that they want independence. Since I had learnt all manual work from Britishers, gardening, painting, carpentry, everything, my interest was manual work from day one, till this day. I don't go anywhere. I don't like this secretarial work. I don't like this typing and writing letters and working in an office. I like to work in a garden. When you came, I was working in the garden. Yeah. I enjoy it most. I go on from 4 to 12 I work there every day. I even skip my food. Sometimes I go on till the evening.
From 4 o'clock in the morning
to evening till night at 10 or 12 o'clock. I won't have my bath, I won't have my food. I enjoy myself. That's the first love of mine. So, Gandhi wanted independence. Now, at that time I was in college. I was interested in manual work. Even at home, we had a servant on 5 rupees. Another servant was supposed to wash my father's dress and all that, 5 rupees. So we had always 2 or 3 servants. And they would also cook. But I always preferred to cook myself, in spite of all that. So my father would always get angry. Why the cook is cooking? Why but somehow I managed to do it. Now this manual work took me to the ashram. In an ashram, there are no servants. Yeah. Ashram means everybody works according to his ability and liking. If you are a good cook, you will work in the kitchen. If you are a good gardener, you will take care of the garden. If you want milk, there will be cattle in the ashram. So you will be milking the cows and giving them fodder. You give them water at the right time, give them a bath and all that. You will take care of the cattle. So similarly, everybody was doing something which they liked. That is how people joined the ashram. So I joined the ashram in Sevagram. Sevagram ashram belonged to Gandhi. I never knew that it belonged to him.
Why did you join the ashram?
Because I liked manual work. So I liked gardening, so I wanted to work in the field there. I went there. Though I was working in the office and drawing a salary of 60 rupees, I preferred to work whoever gave me food. Okay. I was not interested in money. So long as they gave me food and boarding and lodging, I was quite happy. I was working in the garden. So I went to Sevagram ashram to work in the garden.
Oh. Okay.
And I didn't know that it belonged to Gandhi. I came to know about it much later.
Oh.
He was in jail for the quit.
Which year?
That was in 1943. I went to join the ashram in 43. Gandhi was imprisoned and put in Aga Khan Palace on 15th of August 1942 under the Quit India movement. Quit India resolution was passed. So I didn't know that he was the founder of the ashram. I started working. Then Gandhi was not permitted to receive any letters from anybody in the ashram, in the jail. He could not correspond with anybody. So there were restrictions on receiving mail. So whatever mail was received in his name, whether addressed to the ashram or to the Aga Khan Palace, they were all directed to the ashram, to be preserved, to be seen by him when he came back. So he was not in the ashram for nearly 2.5 years. He was released only in May 44. From 15th August 42 to May 44, he was in Aga Khan Palace. Only when in Aga Khan Palace he was unwell, so Britishers took very good care of him. Britishers took very great care about his health. Though he fought against the British, he never said he was their enemy. Britishman was his greatest friends. He only disliked British rule, not the British people. So that is why Britishers had great regard for him. Whenever he fell ill, they took the greatest care, sent the best doctor to attend on him. And he was never fond of allopathy. So he said, I believe in God, so I won't take medicine. So when he fell ill in May 44, the best of doctors came to treat him. They gave him medicine. He said, no, nothing doing. I won't take medicine. I believe in God. God will treat me. So Britishers thought, supposing he dies, they will be held responsible. So they quietly said, please go and look after yourself. We release you unconditionally. So he was released unconditionally. So from Bombay, Aga Khan Palace, he came to Pune, stayed with a capitalist, a shipping magnate in his bungalow, and took care of his health. He went to many nature cure centers. By nature cure he treated himself and came to the ashram only in October. Though he was released in May, he came only in October. At that time, many people in the ashram were also in jail. This man was released because of his illness, but others were still in jail. So there was only a skeleton staff in the ashram. I had to produce before him all the mail that had come for the 2.5 years, nearly 5,000 letters. During his absence, my job was to separate these letters language-wise. Tamil letters, Malayalam letters, French letters, foreign letters, Italian letters, German letters, keep them language-wise. So foreign languages, there was another lady who was a linguist. She used to translate them for Gandhi. Rajkumari Amrit Kaur, she was a linguist. But other languages, Tamil, I could read, I could tell him. English, I could read. Hindi, I could read. Bengali, I could read. So those letters, I had to produce before him, and he would send them replies. Nearly 5,000 letters were there.
So all of that he would...
All of them, they replied. For me, I used to reply only to English letters.
Okay.
He used to dictate. In the beginning, I found it very difficult because even at the age of 74, when I joined him, he was 74. There was a difference of nearly 50 years between me and him. And at that time, he didn't have his teeth.
Oh.
So when he spoke, the sound was sound. I couldn't understand. So when I typed, I made a number of mistakes, but he would never get angry. Anger means violence. So he would never get angry, he would keep quiet, he would just correct it and give it to me, that's all. And he won't even allow me to retype that letter because he believed in saving paper, very thrifty. You understand my point?
Yeah.
Using another sheet of paper means you are wasting paper. So no wastage of any kind. So same thing, you would correct it in his own hand, the same letter will go to everybody. very thrifty, very economical and everything. And everything in the ashram was orderly. No servants. He used to get up at 3:30 in the morning.
3:30 in the morning.
And I was getting up at 6 o'clock in Delhi. So I was just wondering why this man is getting up at 3:30. He must be a fool. This old man is getting up at 3:30. But later, now, when he was getting up 3:30, he was 74, I told you.
Yeah.
At that time I thought this man must be cranky, getting up at 3 o'clock. But now I think nothing, he was all right. Why? At this age I find that any man after 75 doesn't sleep after 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock. So what he did was nothing unusual. It was quite usual. In retrospect, I feel nowadays I don't sleep after 2 o'clock at night. So I went with him. First thing was prayer, was compulsory. He believed in the unity of all religions. Though he was a Hindu, he didn't want Hindus to fight against Muslims or Sikhs or Parsis or Jains. All are equal. All gods are the same. No god says fight with each other. So he believed in the unity of all religions. They have Hindus believe in Bhagavad Gita, Ramayana, verses. Muslims take Quran. Christians take the Bible. So all these things would be read in the morning prayer. Prayer was only for the inmates of the ashram in his room. If somebody didn't come, he would advise him. If you don't want to participate in the ashram, better you look for some other place where you like to be without the ashram. He would never get angry. He won't get angry why you didn't pray and all that. If you don't want, you go to another place where you can be more comfortable without prayer. So, morning prayer was only inside the ashram for inmates. Evening prayer was for the public. Because
Morning at 3 o'clock in the morning.
everybody was supposed to come. He would notice who has not come and immediately tell him, well, if you don't like, you go somewhere else. That's all. Not getting angry at all. Anger means violence. So evening prayer was held for the public because in those days negotiations were going on with the British for giving freedom to India. So people were anxious to know what Gandhi talked with the Britishers. So every day people came from Europe, England, they were talking to him about independence. So evening he would tell them, I met so and so, he said he will give me independence on such and date, that. Supposing there was nobody who came to meet him, then he would advise them on many other local matters about cleanliness. Indians are dirty people. You must keep your house clean. You must wash yourself properly. You must cut your nails properly. You must brush your teeth properly. All these other subjects he will take up. If there is no political subject to talk to, he will talk to other subjects in which there is deficiency among Indians in particular. So I joined him when he came to the ashram. From that time onwards, I was always with him till his death. And he never kept idle even for a moment. He would get up, morning prayer, he described it as key of the morning and bolt of the evening. Key means you open.
Yeah.
Bolt means you fasten it. You open in the morning and pray, and before you go, put on the bolt and go to bed. Prayer is the key of the morning and bolt of the evening. And immediately after getting up, no beverages, no tea, no coffee, nothing. Simple food at the ashram. Not even costly vegetables like cauliflower and cabbage, all that. Only kaddu. Kaddu means pumpkin. Any vegetable you cut, there is water. That is what? That is the only thing. Poshanika, parangika, that's all. And that is the food for everybody. We used to take chapati, rice and dal and vegetable. That's all, nothing more. No rich food. Always simple food both in the morning and evening. No morning tea or coffee. There were gardens. Sevagram consisted of orange trees. So we would pick up an orange. We didn't have to buy. Go to the tree, pluck one and eat. That's right. Best of oranges only in Nagpur. We were near Nagpur. And we had trees, papaya. Everybody ate papaya. Papaya is supposed to be very good for health. Papali padam. So we had papaya. No tea. Some people used to make tea themselves. It was permitted. But ashram life, no tea. And people used to take, Gandhi used to take a glass full of very hot water. Glass was not silver or brass or stainless steel. It was marble tumbler, white marble tumbler. Very hot. You would hold it only with a napkin. And it would have boiling water with 2 spoons of honey and 1 lemon squeezed into it. That is his morning tea. So he would have his morning tea immediately after the prayer. And he won't even waste water. By his side there will be a bottle of water. With that water he would wash his face. Don't use the wash basin as we do all the water waste. No, 1 bottle of water is enough for him for the whole day, 1 full day. Except when he goes for his bath, he will have his bath. Otherwise, for washing his mouth or washing his face, he will just have it in his hand and wipe it with a piece of cloth. No wastage of any kind. Never use soap. No soap at all. If there was a soap, I think it was only 3 or 4 years old. It was lying there. He would rub his body with a piece of cloth, towel. Though it was oily, it would shine, body would shine like anything. And immediately after this morning beverage, he would have his morning walk every day. If it is raining, he would walk inside the room. Here, this small room. If it is not raining, he would walk outside in the garden. Along with him were people who came for interviews. They would be interviewing him. They would talk to him. After that, he would come and have his massage every day. Massage with mustard oil, and at that time he would have a sleep. Because somebody massages, you feel like sleeping. So he would have a good nice nap for half an hour. Then he would have his bath in very hot water. Even in summer, he used very hot water, never in cold water. And after that, his morning meal. His morning meal was very simple. Kaddu, pushanika, and 1 kakra, or Gujarati chapati, and goat's milk, and nothing else. He would have his morning meal. At that time, he would be having interviews with people who had been given an appointment. He would talk to them. Then after that, he would have a short nap for 5 minutes. Siesta. He would be fresh after 5 minutes. Then again, in the afternoon, he would go on writing articles or dictate letters to me. He would observe silence on Mondays, morning 6 to evening 6. On those days, he won't talk to anybody. He won't even dictate letters to me. He would give it to me in writing. I told you, his speech was not audible and not clear because he didn't have his teeth. But his handwriting was still worse. He would scribble, nobody could read what it was. And it was senior secretaries always carried a magnifying glass to see what he has written. I was a new man, I didn't have it. They used to read it. He would use abbreviations. He would write a letter, MDS. It may mean my dear sir, or it may mean my dear Sardar Patel, or it may mean my dear Sushila Nair, or it may mean my dear Sir Stafford Cripps. One would never know. Unless you go through the letter, you would know for whom it is. So the senior secretaries would read the letter and tell me, so write like this. It would go on like this. Whole day you would be working, and when he's observing silence, he would give it to me in writing. I was supposed to type the letters. And daytime, not a moment would he waste his time, except that twice or thrice he would have a sleep for 5 minutes, that's all. 10 o'clock he would sleep for 5 minutes, again at 2 o'clock and 5. Well, 10 minutes, that's all. It is equal. Midday siesta means it is equivalent to 4 hours. If you have a nap in the afternoon, you'll automatically get up after 10 minutes and you will feel fresh as if you have slept for 5 hours. That is how it is. And after getting up, you would start spinning every day on the charka for half an hour. Then, after that, he would have his evening meal at 5 o'clock. Same meal. Evening prayer immediately after the meal. Then go to bed at 9 o'clock. 9 o'clock was our gossip time. We would tell him all the stories that we heard from people and all that. All that he didn't know, we would tell him. So and so came and so, all that. So he would get up early in the morning and think that was his usual life. And never did he waste a single moment of his life. And he identified himself with the masses by putting on a dhoti, langodi. He born in a rich family. His father was Prime Minister of Kathiawad. In those days, small states had premiers. He came from a rich family. He gave up all that because he wanted people to join him in his plan. If you live like a prince, people won't join you. If you identify yourself with the masses, they will join you. That's how people joined him, and that's how it got independence. And he sacrificed everything that he had. He never had a single naya paisa. People gave him all the respect that he required. Birla took care of his finances. Any amount he wanted, any amount he would get. If he wanted 1 crore, he would straight away send him 1 crore. He won't ask him why, what for. He would require it only to run his ashram. In his ashram, there were many activities: soap making, cloth making, all that needed money. So, all that thing, for the garden, manure, implements, everything, all that was provided by Birla. He never shut. Till the end, he gave him a lot of money. Whenever he just had to ask, and he would give. That's all. No question of asking. And he led us very simple life. Nobody on earth could have lived in the simple way as he did. I think even for 1,000 years we can't get a Gandhi like that. Christ was born 2,000 years ago. After Christ, I see only a person like him. And a man like him may take another 1,000 years. I do not know how long it will take, but to sacrifice like that, it needs a lot of courage. He never owned anything. When he died, what did he have? He had his dentures. Then he had a spittoon where he used to spit. He won't spit anywhere and everywhere as we do. He would use a spittoon to spit. Then he had his Bhagavad Gita. Then he had his Quran. Then he had his Bible. 3 books on his table. Then 3 monkeys. Speak not evil, hear not evil, and see not evil. So that is what he believed in. And a pair of dhotis, that's all. Nothing else. He owned, and a pair of spectacles. Nothing else. When he died, he didn't leave a single naya paisa to his children. He had 4 sons. Many people do not know. When I come to your meeting, I'll definitely ask this question. First thing, what do you know about Gandhi? Many people do not know. They think Sonia Gandhi is his daughter-in-law. Many people, all that I'll ask there. But he, when he was he did this salt satyagraha and all that in 1930. All that was, that need not be told for the meeting. They all know about it.
What about the last days, Uncle? Were you with him?
He last 5.5 months he stayed in Delhi.
Okay.
He went to Calcutta on 20th of August 47.
20th August 47.
15th to 20th, because Jinnah was a Muslim. He wanted Pakistan for it. Muslims, and he had started the direct action day in Calcutta and killed 3,000 Hindus. To stop that massacre, Gandhi went there. And he was successful in stopping it by appealing to people. That is why Lord Mountbatten praised him. Said, we could have sent 50,000 soldiers, we could not have stopped it. But you single-handed, you have stopped all this. And you are a great man. He called him a single-man boundary force.
Yeah.
So you were able to stop it, we could not have stopped it. And he praised him a lot. And on 15th August, when India was made independent, Indian flag was flown in the parliament. British flag was brought down. Mountbatten and Nehru appealed to Gandhi, where he was in Calcutta, to come and participate. He said, no, I won't. I have no meaning for this independence which you are celebrating. I want unity among people. That is more important here. I want to bring the Hindus and Muslims together. I have no use for the independence you are having there in Delhi. This is more important than this, so I won't come. So he never came. So he came only on 9th of September. From 15th August to 9th of September. That is, after 24 days he came to Delhi. He stayed in Birla House. In Birla House you could have the best of furniture, best of everything. But the moment Birla came to know that Gandhi is going to come and stay here, he removed everything from the room. He doesn't want a sofa, only a carpet. Carpet he could not remove because it is, with a gum it is pasted on the floor. So carpet was there. In one corner there was a bed for him with pillows. There was a small desk for him to keep his papers. That's all. And he stayed there for nearly 5.5 months. In those 5.5 months, he wanted to reform India. Having got independence, his job was over. He wanted to devote his time to build an India of his dreams, which he failed to do. He gave a number of suggestions. First suggestion was, dissolve the Congress. Congress got independence. But you could not have got independence if people had not cooperated with you. So all the people are responsible for getting you correspondence. So form a Lok Sevak Sangh. Lok Sevak Sangh means a party to serve the people. Lok means people, Sevak means service, Sangh means organization. Change Congress into Lok Sevak Sangh. But they didn't agree. Then, how to remove poverty? Everybody is poor. In metropolitan cities, we were enjoying life. I told you. In Simla, Delhi, Calcutta, Bombay, Bangalore, Madras, they are all metropolitan cities. You have got everything there as you have got in England. You don't have to go to England.
Yeah.
You can live there. What do you have? You have got a hospital, schools, colleges, dispensaries, good transport, postal facilities, train facilities, telegram facilities, everything, good drinking water, electricity, telephone, everything. None of these things were available in villages. There are 8 lakh villages in India. All the 8 lakh villagers were living in mud huts, no electricity, no drinking water, only water well from the well, no school, no university, no education. If you fall ill, you just die. No medicines, no dispensary, no hospital, and everything was like that. No transport. You can't receive letters. If you want to receive a letter, you must walk from the village up to Madras and then see the letter. You couldn't do all that. So for that, Gandhi wanted independence. He wanted equality for all. That is why he wanted to set up an India of his dreams, where everybody would be equal. Nobody would be wanting in anything. Everybody will have a good house to stay in, good food, good education, good medical facilities, everything proper. You may have a little more and less, but minimum should be there. For basic necessities should be all. For that, he tried. He tried first, dissolve the Congress. They didn't do it. Then, why are people poor? They are getting very little salary, but they were quite all right. Even with 15 rupees they could manage. But to become rich, they put money in lotteries. They lose even the little money they have. The family suffers. So he said, stop lotteries. They go to horse racing, same thing. You put money there, you lose the money, your family suffers. And similarly, you put money in drinks to forget your worries. What happens? You drink, you waste your money, family is without. So that is how they are poor people. So he said, bring about prohibition, stop racing, stop this lotteries and all that. They didn't, even till this date is going on.
Yeah.
So 68 years, 67 years of independence, they never bothered about it. That is why Gandhi got frustrated. Every day he used to receive 50 letters, say 50 to 60. Out of that 50 or 60, nearly 15 were from abroad. Germany, Italy, America, they would all want his this thing, autograph, most of them. They would praise him for his work. They all liked him in foreign countries.
Should I shut the door now?
So,
You were saying about those letters.
out of 50 letters, nearly 10 or 15 would be from abroad. Open. Yes, come in. Open. यार